first you gotta do the truffle shuffle.
Ready to do the truffle shuffle? We're diving into the secret chaos behind the Goonies. Real injuries, freezing water torture, improvised iconic scenes, and a pirate ship so incredible the kids' reactions were genuine. Here are 20 weird facts about this cult classic that'll blow your mind. Goonies never say die. 1. Steven Spielberg's personal connection. Steven Spielberg based the Goonies on his own childhood treasure hunting fantasies. That's right. As a kid, Spielberg spent countless hours exploring caves and abandoned buildings, dreaming of finding pirate gold. When he pitched the film, studios were skeptical about a kids' adventure movie working at the box office. Spielberg had to convince executives that children could carry an entire film without adult leads. He told them it would be like a modern-day Treasure Island, but with BMX bikes and booby traps. The rest is cinema history. 2. The truffle shuffle was improvised. Jeff Cohen, who played Chunk, created the iconic truffle shuffle completely on the spot during auditions. Yep, that legendary belly jiggle dance wasn't in any script. Director Richard Donner was so caught off guard by Cohen's spontaneous performance that he immediately knew they had their Chunk. The move became so popular that Donner worked it into multiple scenes. Cohen later said he based it on a dance his cousin taught him, but he had no idea it would become one of the most quoted movie moments of the 80s. 3. The pirate ship was 100% real. That massive pirate ship wasn't CGI or miniatures. It was a full-scale, functional vessel built specifically for the film. The construction took months and cost more than some entire movie budgets. When the kids first walked onto the soundstage and saw the ship, their gasps of amazement were completely genuine because they'd been kept away from the set until filming. One crew member said watching their faces light up was like witnessing real kids discovering actual treasure. Those reactions you see on screen are pure, unscripted wonder. 4. Corey Feldman's accent. Confusion Mouth's signature wise guy Brooklyn accent wasn't anywhere in the original script. Corey Feldman developed that distinctive, fast-talking, street-smart voice entirely on his own during rehearsals. The other young actors were so impressed they started copying his accent between takes. Director Richard Donner loved it so much he encouraged Feldman to push it even further. Feldman later admitted he based the voice on his grandfather and old gangster movies, creating one of the most quotable characters in 80s cinema without any direction from the script. 5. Sean Astin accidentally cut his foot. During the scene where Mikey runs across the country club's wooden deck, Sean Astin stepped on a shard of glass and sliced his foot open for real. The injury was so bad they had to rush him to the hospital mid-shoot. Instead of writing around it, director Richard Donner incorporated Astin's limp into the character. If you watch closely, you can see Mikey favoring that foot in several later scenes. Astin later joked that his real pain made his performance more authentic, though he admitted it hurt like crazy every time he had to run. 6. The octopus scene that was cut. Data's encounter with a giant octopus in the underground lagoon was filmed but completely removed from the theatrical release. The sequence involved a massive animatronic sea creature that took weeks to build and operate. When test audiences found the scene too scary and unrealistic, it got axed. But here's the weird part. They forgot to edit out Data's reference to the octopus at the very end when he's talking to reporters. For years, fans thought he was making it up until the deleted scene surfaced on DVD releases. 7. Josh Brolin almost wasn't cast. Josh Brolin auditioned for Brand literally at the last minute when another actor dropped out just days before filming began. The studio was nervous about casting him because he looked too young to be Sean Astin's older brother. Brolin had to convince them by doing push-ups and flexing during his audition to prove he could pull off the athletic big brother role. One casting director said they almost went with a completely different actor who was 10 years older. Brolin's late addition changed the entire family dynamic of the film. 8. The water slides were torture. Those exciting water slide scenes were absolute misery for the young cast. The water was freezing cold because they couldn't heat the massive underground pool system without damaging the equipment. The kids had to do take after take in near hypothermic conditions. Several cast members got sick during the water filming weeks. Martha Plimpton later said it was like being in a medieval dungeon with rushing water. The crew had to wrap the kids in heated blankets between every single take to prevent them from getting pneumonia. Ninth, Sloth's makeup took 5 hours daily. John Matuszak, the former NFL player who played Sloth, had to endure a grueling 5-hour makeup transformation every single filming day. The prosthetic face pieces were so heavy and uncomfortable that he could barely see or breathe properly. Between the fake teeth, facial appliances, and contact lenses, Matuszak was essentially blind and deaf on set. He bonded with the young cast during his long makeup sessions, telling them football stories while getting transformed. One crew member said watching this gentle giant emerge from that monster makeup was like witnessing magic in reverse. 10. The Baby Ruth scene. Wasn't chocolate. That disgusting floating candy bar in the country club pool wasn't actually a Baby Ruth. The prop department used a mixture of peanut butter, chocolate syrup, and corn syrup molded into candy bar shape. Jeff Cohen had to do multiple takes biting into this concoction, and by the fourth take, he was genuinely gagging. The pool water was treated with so many chemicals that everything tasted like chlorine anyway. Cohen later said the fake candy bar was actually more disgusting than a real one would have been because it had the consistency of wet cement mixed with sugar. 11. Cyndi Lauper's song almost didn't happen. The Goonies Are Good Enough was added to the film at the very last minute when executives worried the movie needed more commercial appeal. Cyndi Lauper wrote and recorded the song in just 3 days after seeing rough footage. The music video featuring wrestling stars and movie clips was thrown together so quickly that some scenes were still being edited while Lauper was shooting. That last-minute song ended up boosting box office numbers significantly and became a bigger hit than anyone expected. Lauper later said she'd never worked under such intense time pressure. 12. Martha Plimpton was a last-minute addition. Steph's character wasn't even in the original script. Martha Plimpton was brought in when producers decided Andy needed a best friend for better character dynamics. Her role was written and expanded during filming based on her natural chemistry with the cast. Plimpton had to learn her lines literally the night before shooting most of her scenes. The other actors welcomed her so warmly that her late addition actually improved the group dynamic. Director Richard Donner said adding Steph was one of the best spontaneous decisions they made during production. 13. The basement torture scenes. Those creepy Fratelli basement scenes were filmed in an actual underground location that was genuinely claustrophobic and terrifying. The young actors had to deal with real dampness, strange smells, and limited lighting that wasn't just for atmosphere. Several kids developed temporary claustrophobia from spending long days in the confined space. The production had to bring in child psychologists to help some cast members cope with the scary environment. Corey Feldman later admitted he had nightmares about being trapped underground for weeks after filming those basement sequences. 14th, Ke Huy Quan's English struggles. Data's actor, Ke Huy Quan, was still learning English during filming and had to learn many of his lines phonetically. His pronunciation coaches worked with him between every take to perfect his delivery. Many of Data's gadget malfunctions were actually real mistakes because Quan couldn't always understand the technical directions being shouted at him. The language barrier sometimes worked in his favor, making Data's confusion more authentic. Quan later said the other kids helped him practice English during lunch breaks, turning the cast into his personal tutoring group. 15. The Fratelli brothers' method acting. Robert Davi and Joe Pantoliano, who played the Fratelli brothers, stayed partially in character between takes to keep the kids genuinely intimidated. They would lurk around the set, making threatening gestures and muttering insults under their breath. The young actors were actually scared of them during the first week of filming. Pantoliano later admitted they took it too far when some kids started avoiding them at lunch. One crew member said the brothers had to tone down their method acting after parents complained their children were having nightmares about the mean men on set. On Altunja Ann Ramsey'nin Mama Fratelli intensity. Ann Ramsey's terrifying performance as Mama Fratelli was completely opposite to her real personality, which was sweet and grandmother-like. But her character was so convincing that several young cast members were genuinely afraid to be alone with her. Ramsey improvised many of her most memorable insults and threats, making them up on the spot during filming. She later said she based the character on every mean teacher she'd ever encountered. Between takes, she would immediately drop character and offer the kids candy, which confused them even more about her true nature. 17. The wishing well scene nightmare. Filming the underground wishing well sequence was a logistical nightmare that nearly ended in disaster. The water was deeper than it appeared, and several young actors couldn't touch the bottom while wearing heavy costumes. Professional divers had to be stationed just off camera in case anyone went under. The echo effect you hear was completely natural because they were filming in an actual underground chamber. Sean Astin later revealed he genuinely panicked during one take when his costume got waterlogged and started pulling him down. Safety protocols had to be completely revised after that incident. 18. Chunk and Sloth's friendship was real. Jeff Cohen and John Matuszak developed a genuine father-son type friendship that extended far beyond filming. Despite the 5-hour makeup sessions that made communication difficult, Matuszak took Cohen under his wing and protected him from pranks by older cast members. They would spend hours between takes with Matuszak telling Cohen stories about his NFL career while still in full Sloth makeup. Cohen later said Matuszak was like the big brother he never had. Their on-screen chemistry worked so well because their off-screen bond was completely authentic and protective. 19. The sequel that never happened. Multiple Goonies 2 scripts were actually written throughout the late 80s and 90s, with plots involving the kids as teenagers and even as adults. Steven Spielberg repeatedly turned down sequel opportunities, saying the original was lightning in a bottle that couldn't be recreated. The cast has reunited several times over the decades, always joking about finally making the sequel. 20. The cast's real treasure hunt. The young cast created their own treasure hunting game on set, hiding props and personal items around the elaborate sets for each other to find. They made maps and left clues just like in the movie, turning downtime into their own adventure. Some of these hidden treasures were never found and might still be embedded in the set somewhere. There you have it, 20 weird facts that prove the Goonies was just as adventurous behind the camera as on screen. Goonies never say die, and neither do these incredible stories.